Without further ado, I would like to call upon Mr. Michael Opie, Deputy Head of Mission of the Embassy of Australia.
Good morning, everyone. I'd firstly like to start by thanking the Kostas Yathounis School for hosting us here this morning. I'd also like to acknowledge the fellow members of the Diplomatic Corps here, and of course I'm honoured to be sharing the stage with such an esteemed company here and virtually with the Secretary General. I'm going to speak a little bit about reform of the United Nations. The Secretary General referred to a loss of trust in institutions, and institutions need to reform to gain that trust. I'm going to get there in a roundabout way, but I'm going to try and do it in 5 minutes, so we'll see how we go. I'll first just say Australia is a long-time supporter of multilateralism. We are, as you probably know, a very large country, but we're a middle power. We're not a great power, and we can't rely on our own power to deliver what we want in the world. So we want to work to strengthen global institutions in the UN and other institutions. We look to build consensus around norms of international behaviour that will build trust between nations. We need that to provide stability in the world. Now, the United Nations is obviously the premier organisation for this, and it's a fact that since 1945, the number of issues which the UN is called to deal with has increased as the world has globalised. There's many examples you'll be aware of. Climate change is one that's often talked about. Another one which affects youth in particular around the world is the small arms trade. There are something like 800 million illegal arms being traded around the world today. Around 2,000 people die every day from illegal arms. It disproportionately affects families and young people. If you look at the United Nations response to that, in 2001 they developed a program of action and decided to work towards a treaty on this issue. It's 2012 now, it's almost 2013, and we don't have a treaty. Now, a lot of important work's been done, but this unfortunately highlights one thing about multilateralism, and that's that it's difficult and it's slow. We always have to acknowledge this. And it's led some people to describe the current situation in the world as a crisis of multilateralism. We're definitely in a period where we need multilateralism more than ever, but our capacity for it to deliver solutions is becoming harder and harder. So I want to give you an example which is particularly pertinent to Australia's history of where we've seen multilateralism really work and really deliver a benefit in our part of the world. In 1947, Australia became the first ever member state of the United Nations to refer a matter to the UN Security Council as a threat to international peace and security. This happened when the Dutch actually intervened in our neighbourhood, in our neighbouring country of Indonesia, and attacked some of the Republican forces there in Java and Sumatra. And the Indonesian government asked Australia to refer this to the UN Security Council. It was a very big deal for us then. We were a relatively young nation, and this actually went against the wishes of our traditional allies. We agonised over the request, but we did refer it because we had this belief in the United Nations and the Security Council as being a body which could deliver real results. We referred it, and on the 1st of August 1947, the Security Council ordered a ceasefire. Australia was then appointed by Indonesia to negotiate on its behalf, and it led to a truce agreement, and it was a crucial step towards our neighbour Indonesia achieving full independence, which was very important for us. At the time, the Australian Foreign Minister said something which I think really rings true today. He said, "No power is so great that it can ignore the will of the peoples of the world expressed through the Assembly, and no power is so small that it cannot contribute to the making of world opinion through the Assembly." He was expressing his belief in the United Nations, the General Assembly and the Security Council to deliver real solutions for people. Now, this year Australia was elected to the United Nations Security Council. We'll serve a 2-year term starting next year. And what we want to do is work in the Security Council to make the former Foreign Minister, to make his words ring true. And that involves reform, and reform's difficult. But we've long supported reform because we think the Security Council needs to be more representative of the modern world. It's more than 60 years since it was established, and things have changed. We want to increase the transparency of its dealings. We want greater participation for those who are not members of the Security Council. We want to expand the permanent and the non-permanent membership of the Security Council. We think it would reflect the true state of the world today if we had Japan, Brazil, and at least 2 African nations represented permanently on the Security Council. We're not arguing to be there ourselves, but we want to see it better reflect the reality of global politics today. Now, I think, I hope you'll have a very good debate on these issues over the next, or over the course of your conference. I think as young people, you probably understand better the world as it's developing now, and you probably understand that the Security Council needs to change, because the fact is those countries which are permanently represented on the Security Council, they're ageing countries. We've got many countries now in the world which are experiencing a youth bulge, young people moving up and really bringing those countries to the fore. So I'd encourage you to debate how young people find their voice in the world, including through the United Nations. So I wish you all the best for your debate. I hope you have a very interesting conference, and thanks again for having us here.